All right, beautiful people. Today we are talking about the essential question, what are the pieces of an algebraic expression? We're going to go through two different examples. So example one, we're identifying parts of an expression. So from yesterday, we're going to recall that there's something called a term, which are all the pieces without addition. There's something called a variable, which is the letter or the symbol. There's something called a coefficient, which is the number that's attached to the variable with multiplication. And then there's something called a constant, and that's the number all by itself that's not attached to a variable. So if you don't remember what those four terms are, go ahead and look on the previous page where we took notes and find your definitions for them. All right, we're going to start with example one and one example of it. Okay, we're going to break this expression up. It is 5x plus 13, okay? And we're going to identify each of these terms, or each of these vocab words. So we're going to start with, what are the terms? What's the variable? What's the coefficient? And I'm going to abbreviate it to coef because it just takes forever to write coefficient. And what's the constant? All right, so we'll start with terms. The terms of an algebraic expression are the pieces without addition. So I look to the left of this addition sign and I see one piece here. So 5x is a term. Okay, and then I look to the right of the addition sign and I see this term here, 13. Okay, so I've got two terms, 5x and 13. So over here I'm going to write that there are two terms, in case the question asks how many terms are there. All right, what is the variable? Now a variable is a letter or a symbol. In this expression, the variable that I see is the letter x, okay, the letter x. So x is a variable. Now the word coefficient means what's the number that's attached to the variable. What number is attached to that variable? So if I look up here in terms, or if I look up here, I see that there is a 5 attached to the variable. So my coefficient is 5. And last but not least, what is the number all by itself? So if I look in my term section, which of these two things doesn't have a variable? Well, 13 is the only term that doesn't have a variable. So 13 is the constant. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, we're going to try 2z squared plus y plus 3. So again, I want to know what the terms are, what the variables are, coefficients, and constant. All right, starting with terms, I'm looking for each of the pieces without the addition sign. So here's an addition sign. To the left of the addition sign, I see 2z squared. So I'm going to write 2z squared. That is one term. All right, to the right of that first addition sign, I see the letter y. So y is a second term. And then I've got another addition sign, and to the right of that addition sign, I have the number 3. So 3 is a third term. So there are 3 terms in this one. 3 terms. Okay. All right, the next thing I'm looking for is the variable. In this case, I notice that there are 2 different letters. So I've got the letter z squared, and I've got the letter y. Now it's important that when I put the variable down, I keep the exponent. So z squared is a variable, and y is a variable. And z squared is important because z squared means that it's z times itself, remember, from when we talked about exponents. So I need to include it as an exponent. All right, coefficients. Coefficients are the numbers that stood with those variables. Now this one's a little harder to see. So on that first one, 2z squared, 2 is clearly a coefficient to z squared. So 2 goes here. But on y, there's not a clear coefficient for y. So remember, when there's not a clear coefficient, no clear coefficient, then the number 1 is the coefficient. Okay, so 1 is the coefficient of y, because there's a little hidden number 1 here. And last but certainly not least is the number by itself, which is 3. All right, so that's it for example 1.